Thank you. Allow me to invite Sister Jacqueline Akini to conduct the opening prayer. Sister.
And the Holy Spirit, amen. Father, in your presence, we are standing in gratitude. You are so good to us, our Father, having given us ability to see this day. You've given us life, Lord Jesus, and you've involved yourself in our plans. Lord Jesus, we want to thank you for the University of Maasai Mara. Lord, upon your Holy Spirit to descend upon each one of us, Lord, those who have arrived and those who are on the way. We call upon your precious blood, Lord Jesus, to be upon each one of us, Lord, that your goodness and glorification may be identified with us. Thank you, Lord Jesus, because we know that you have made it for us. And as we begin this session, Lord, we bless you and bless your holy name. We bless you, Lord Jesus, because our plans are yours. We bless you, Lord Jesus, and thank you, Lord, because you are in our midst. We thank you, Lord, for all the organizers. Even as we begin, the speakers, Lord Jesus, may it be a success, because in you we find goodness. And in vain is our early rising and going later to bed if you are not involved. And so as we begin, may you be in our midst. We ask all this through Christ our Lord. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to the inaugural Biennial Students Conference that is held at Maasai Mara University for the next 3 days, whose theme is Innovation for Sustainable Development, Postgraduate Research for Social Transformation. It's an absolute pleasure to invite you to Maasai Mara University, whether you've traveled from near, far, and also know that there are delegates that are joining us virtually. So we are glad. And all delegates, we are going to begin with a small entertainment. And I would like to take this opportunity right now to invite Tamba to coordinate the entertainment session. Please, welcome.
Kindly stand up, team, and wave that made it possible. And the members were Professor Beatrice Manyasi from Maasai Mara University. Thank you. Chair. It was possible because of our CEOs, the CEO NRF, Dr. and our Vice Chancellor Maasai Mara University, who constituted a team that made it possible. Mr. And the members were Jackson, Professor Beatrice Manyasi from Maasai Mara University was the chair. That was the team from, we had Dr. Alois Osano, from Ombiro, NRF, Dr. Kimile Nancy, Emmanuel Chitechi, Professor Simiyu Justus, Esther Mugo, Dr. Lily, and Robert Gisheru. On behalf of the committee, Jackson, thank you very much, and Dr. Katea Edward. That was the team from Maasai Mara University. From NRF, we had Emmanuel Chitechi, Esther Mugo, and Robert Gisheru. On behalf of the committee, I thank you very much for making it possible. My role is now to welcome, thank you. My role is now to welcome our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Maasai Mara University, Academic and Student Affairs, Professor Bolitia, to come and give his remarks. Thank you.
The chief guest, and also the cabinet secretary and his representative, our chairman of council, Maasai Mara University, Dr. Kenneth Olekerei, the guest speaker and chairman, NRF, board of trustees, Professor Emeritus Ratemo Micheka, CEO or his representative, National Research, Professor Dixon Adala, our Vice Chancellor, Maasai Mara University, Professor Penina Alo Obudo, conference chairperson who has just left here, Professor Beatrice Manyasi, members of the Senate present, members of the University Management Board present, postgraduate students who are here with us, researchers, innovators, all participants, distinguished guests, good morning. Mine is just to welcome each one of us here. It is actually a great pleasure and honor to have all of us here for this historic occasion, the inaugural National Biennial Postgraduate Students Conference of 2025. This is actually a significant milestone in our collective academic journey that brings together the brightest minds from across the country to share the insights, challenges, assumptions, and ignite new parts of knowledge. Allow me at this juncture to welcome the Vice Chancellor of Maasai Mara, Professor Penina Olo Abudo, a visionary leader and advocate of research excellence, to deliver her opening remarks.
Thank you very much, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, in charge of Academic and Student Affairs, Professor Bolitia. The Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Education, who will be represented by the Education Secretary, Dr. Hunja. I'm told she's just about to arrive. She started a little late, but she's coming. The Chair of NRF Board, our Professor Emeritus, Professor Ratemo Micheka, Chairman of Maasai Mara University. University Council, Council member present, Dr. Chebet, CEO NRF, whom I'm told will be with us not today, will join us in the course of this conference, probably tomorrow, Friday. CEO Kenya, he has just sent an apology on the way, but he will join us shortly. Senate members who are present here, members of the University Management Board, distinguished guests, esteemed scholars, researchers, and postgraduate students. Good morning. Morning once more. You look very cold. Yes, I can now see smiles. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor and immense pleasure that I welcome you all to Maasai Mara University for this momentous occasion, the inaugural biannual Postgraduate Students' Conference. This landmark event is a testament to our collective commitment to academic excellence, innovation, and sustainable development. We are privileged to host this conference in collaboration with the National Research Fund, NRF, a partnership that accentuates the critical role of research in driving socio-economic transformation in Kenya and beyond. The idea of this conference was mooted when I and the CEO of NRF met in an event sometime last year, and as we were discussing, we realized that postgraduate students are supported by the National Research Fund, but NRF has no capacity to monitor them, what they are doing in the field, and how they are faring on. And therefore, we asked ourselves, how can NRF follow these researchers to monitor their progress? Ladies and gentlemen, today then marks the beginning of an intellectually stimulating discourse aimed at fostering groundbreaking research and innovation. This conference brings together postgraduate students funded by NRF, development partners, and self-financed scholars, all of whom are actively contributing to the knowledge economy through their research endeavors. The insights shared here will not only undergo rigorous peer review and quality assurance, but will also contribute to national development through policy recommendations and technological innovations. Postgraduate research is the cornerstone of transformation towards knowledge-based economy, the direction that our nation is going. Maasai Mara University is one of the 14 universities that is being mentored by the Kenya National Innovation Agency, Kenya, to be an entrepreneurial university. Entrepreneurial university is a university that champions innovation, and we aim at innovation being at the center of our activities in this university. More of that will come when the CEO NRF comes to join us. To actualize the vision of holding this conference, we have structured our deliberations around critical sub-themes that align with the national and global development priorities. The first one is environmental sustainability and climate action, and Maasai Mara University niche is on tourism, environmental management, and conservation. So it will enable the NRA to assess the quality and progress of research projects it has funded, thereby informing future funding strategies and impact assessment of the research of postgraduate students. Ladies and gentlemen, 3 weeks ago, I and the chairman of council, we had the pleasure of listening to the head of public service. He was talking to the chairs of councils in universities and the vice chancellors. And one of the areas that is stressed and he raised concern about is the low output of research from our universities. He echoed that it looks like our universities are only teaching and ignoring our other mandate of research. Remember, the university mandate has 3 components. There's teaching or training, there's research, and there's community outreach. Research and community outreach are not coming out clearly. Teaching is going on, and therefore the concern of the head of public service was, why are our universities not doing research? And if they are doing research, why are we not hearing about their research? Why are we not hearing about innovations, earth-shaking innovations coming from universities? The conference we are holding today is aiming at enhancing the quality and the quantity of research in our universities through postgraduate students. As we embark on this journey of intellectual exchange, I encourage all participants to engage actively, network with fellow researchers, and explore collaborative opportunities that can further strengthen the research ecosystem in Kenya. I extend my heartfelt appreciation to the organizing committee. Professor Manyasi has already introduced them. Our key partner, the National Research Fund, who has contributed immensely to the success of this conference. Mwalimu Sako gave us some support, and I think it's good to mention them. And all stakeholders who have contributed to the success of this event. Ladies and gentlemen, with these few remarks, I wish you fruitful discussions, and I believe this gathering will improve the quality of research that will drive sustainable development and societal transformation in our nation, which is in line with our vision at Maasai Mara University. I want to thank you, and I wish you all the best. And with those few remarks, it's now my honor and pleasure to invite my chair, who will then invite the chair of NRF, who will then invite the chief guest whom I've just seen, she has just arrived. Karibu sana, madam. So join me in welcoming my chairman of council, Dr. Delegate. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Madam VC. Okay. Our CS, represented by Dr. Hunja, Professor Emeritus Ratemo Cheka, who is the chair of NLF, Professor Dixon Adala, CEO NRF, much as you know that is not around. Our chair academic committee, Dr. Susan Chebet, our VC, Professor Hugo, conference organizing committee, students, participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I want to take this opportunity to go through this speech, and then I will maybe say one or two other things, and then we'll proceed from there. So, distinguished guests, esteemed scholars, researchers, and postgraduate students, it is with immense pride and distinct honor that I address you today at the inaugural biannual postgraduate students conference here at Maasai Mara University. This event signifies a fundamental moment for our institution and for the broader landscape of research and innovation in Kenya. The collaboration with the National Research Fund for this conference highlights a shared vision to leverage robust research as a catalyst for profound socio-economic transformation within Kenya and beyond its borders. This partnership is a testament to the critical role that both academic institutions and national funding bodies play in nurturing a vibrant research ecosystem. The theme, Innovation for Sustainability, sustainable development, postgraduate research for societal transformation, is not merely a title, but a powerful articulation of our collective ambition. It reflects our commitment to fostering groundbreaking research that directly addresses the challenges and opportunities of our time, ultimately leading to tangible societal improvements. This conference serves as a vital platform, bringing together an impressive array of talent, including postgraduate students funded by the NRF, development partners, and self-financed scholars. The research endeavors presented here are poised to significantly contribute to the knowledge economy with insights that will undergo rigorous peer review and quality assurance. More importantly, these insights are expected to translate into actual policy recommendations and technological innovations that will drive national development. The deliberated sub-themes are strategically aligned with national and global development priorities. Our discussions are both relevant and impactful. These crucial include, number one, technology innovations for socio-economic growth, exploring how technology can foster innovation and inclusivity in Kenya's economy, devotionalizing sectors like healthcare, agriculture, education, and business. Environmental sustainability and climate action as a second one, focusing on development strategies for resilience and sustainability through earth sciences and climate change adaptation. The third one is policy governance and societal impact, highlighting how research can provide evidence-based insights for robust governance frameworks, effective policy interventions, and the advancement of social justice. Then fourth, emerging issues in education, aiming to shape policies that enhance the accessibility, quality, and relevance of education in response to technological advances and evolving societal needs. Next, pure and applied sciences and technological advancements, emphasizing the foundational role of scientific research in driving progress in fields such as engineering, medicine, and biotechnology. Among the conference offers the NRF a crucial opportunity to assess quality and progress of its funded research projects, thereby informing future funding strategies and impact assessments. As chairman of the council, I encourage all participants to fully engage in this intellectual exchange, network, collaborate, and explore opportunities that can further strengthen Kenya's research ecosystem. I extend my deepest gratitude to the organizing committee, our partners at the National Research Fund, and all stakeholders whose tireless efforts have made this momentous event possible. May this platform inspire groundbreaking research that will drive sustainable development and societal transformation for years to come. Maybe before I say that I'm wishing you well, please continue. Just to emphasize that, of course, as we mentioned, I'm the chairman of council, and once again, we're welcoming you to Maasai Mara. I have council here as the chair of the committee. We agreed that she will just wave so that you see her before I invite the chair. And then maybe again to state the position of our council in Maasai Mara University, that we really support research, as it was pointed out by our Vice Chancellor. Of course, as we all know, there are three main mandates of the university, that is teaching, research, and community outreach. So for us here, Chair and the ministry, I just want to point it out that as a council we are very keen, particularly on the element of research. In fact, we have gone ahead to establish a division, a research division, that sole purpose of emphasizing research in Maasai Mara University. So when we see this kind of favor, let me call it a favor, NRF coming to partner with us and enabling us to have such a conference. It's the only one of its kind in Kenya. We really appreciate that as a council. And that's why when we invited by the DC to come and be with you, especially in this opening session, we had to make sure that we are here so that you see that you have our full blessings. Thank you very much. Members, join me now to welcome Professor Atemo Micheka, the chair, NRF, to come and give us his remarks. Karibu sana, Professor. I'll just do like what the DCD, I will wait here until you arrive before I exit. Thank you. Welcome, Professor. Yes, sir.
You're doing great, right? Research. The chairman of and facilitate the effective natural plus social plus physical sciences that comes as a need. And therefore, it's a research ecosystem which we must very carefully pick and promote. We are committed to creating the knowledge and the innovation essential for the Kenyan socio-economic development across every field of research, be it science, technology, social, biological, just as I mentioned a while ago. Really, you are just strengths of knowledge to really facilitate ideas, get solutions to shape the future of Kenya. Maisha ni matatizo ya Wakenya everywhere. The world today faces a complex of challenges, which are technological, disruptions in political instability, climate change issues, which are completely discussed every single day, socio-economic transformations, and it is really your curiosity in research and the innovation that will help some of these problems that we are talking about. Don't think somebody will come from another country to actually help you sort out the losing biodiversity or sort out cover them and take them away. It is you people that we rely on. You always say, let us have some autonomy and work just as other people. And in business, just like in academic, success really hinges on the ability to question. If you want to start a business, you must find out whether that business will actually work financially to promote your life in a way of making a money or some kind of thought you have. You must question, analyze, and innovate. So when you start studying, it's like really a company in your head. You thrive into it, and those that you impress, that change, you say, I'm now finishing my PhD, my master's. How does it promote me? I'm investing in research, and I want to apply that knowledge that you have used meaningful to that discipline you have. The synergy between academic and the industry applications has never been really more than crucial. I do know we talk this a lot. University industry linkages, postgraduates. I do not know if any of you collaborate, maybe very few indeed, with the industry to bring change, to bring research findings into actually commercialization. I can mention a few. I've been there through years. Yogurts, strawberries, processing, now shoes from Garissa and other places coming through. We are talking about small type research, which we don't promote beyond some localized institutions. So I'm really thinking hard that shall we rely on external aid, external innovations for years that we have survived? As you navigate through your postgraduate journey, I really encourage you to seize every opportunity to engage in interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and the collaborations with others. Networking with industry, with your own selves, must be calculated properly. You know, we really have issues. I went through those proposals that you are doing, read them through, and I was thinking, can this be a breakthrough in some way? Can that transform this country? It's a transformation. We cry about jobs every single day. Mr. Chairman, jobs, job availability. I give a live example. If today we continuously processed pyrethrum, created the pyrethrins that we have as a natural biodegradable insecticides, insecticide. There are 6 jasmines and 6 of them compounds that are found in pyrethrum. It would have created some 10,000 jobs all over. We would have even manufactured one in Nakuru here that was there, still surviving somehow, not surviving, dead actually. Then another one perhaps in Maasai Mara to process. That would create thousands of jobs for people. If the most hyped, the language we use, avocado oil, is completely beneficiated, brought into the top-notch cream oil, not the crude one we do, all over the country, we would be dismissing Nivea slowly, buying our own material we can promote, being natural. If to date, Mr. Chairman, we left under Flora and they say we can now employ graduates, first-degree graduates, to monitor the whole 340-something wards in this country, 10 graduates per ward, we would have reduced the Gen Z to a level that could be at least satisfied. You will be also Gen Zs because you may or may not get a quick position you would wish to go through research. So I stand here wishing you well, telling you that we can make a difference, one, in creating these factories we talked through. Yesterday I was reading titanium in Kwale, which I endorsed as Director General NEMA sometimes back to start and gave them the conditionality of ensuring that they bring my Kwale County, where they were mining that titanium, to its original form in plant, fauna, material, and other living organisms. They are trying to do that now. They are living. And I was reading thousands of jobs have actually been lost and will be lost by them closing down. If we had alternative mining areas to get those people, by you researchers, finding out that other chemicals, rare minerals in Kenya, would indeed be a substitute or an addition to the titanium, and protect that mining to the last detail, we could not be talking about hoovering Gen Z, talking about job availability. So, Chair, sorry to go through this, Madam Hunja, Professor, you shall be coming in a short emeritus. So what? What about it? You know, I've thought actually, and I'll tell you names. What I did today when I was coming, I said, look, these are my students, and I used to teach environment and pesticides. Right now they are discussing, Chair, production of potatoes in Laikipia, embedded, absorbed, adsorbed, completely messed up by some pesticides that have been sprayed. Yes, possibility. But I'm not saying yes until I do proof of that. And that's research. Let me just give you a lineup on this. Those who have done systemic products and other areas. I did my area with the glyphosate Roundup, which everybody's talking about. A plant, or even a human being, when you take an injection or you spray a particular plant with a substance, a compound, that compound will translocate. If it is manufactured, first you manufacture in a factory, take long to manufacture. Simply say translocating, non-translocating, systemic, non-systemic, contact, non-contact of some kind. So if potatoes now grown up in Laikipia or in Maua or in Kimbo or in up here grassland, Molo, is sprayed with the leaves foliage for diseases, and it's a very short crop. You spray that potato. This is research, you guys. You spray the potato with an insecticide, say an aphid or some pathogen or some fungi. On that leaf, the leaf of the plant, you are aiming at killing that little pathogen or that little insect at that point. So I'm assuming somebody's thinking that which you sprayed will have to translocate. I didn't have a board, I would. Translocate through the system, the leaves, foliage, leaves, to the stem, the fat little stem, onto the tuber, which grows below the ground, the tuber. So I asked myself, how powerful would this compound be? Because they are made to die, disintegrate, decompose within a certain period of time, by which time the potato would have actually harvested. Think about research and the confirmation of things you read. I read it with a lot of interest. A potato now. I've left glyphosate, now I'm dealing with potatoes at some point. So guys, let me say this. Really, leadership is training, it's not a title. You have to have a vision, you people. Ability to really turn ideas into reality, complete reality. You are here together as hopefully the brightest of minds at this point in time. I call you that now. At this point in time, I claim you the brightest in mind in postgraduate research, funded by NRF. Great, excellent. But the future depends on you breaking research information findings. The skills you develop today, including critical thinking, problem solving, and adaptability. I'll be here the whole time and listen to some of the papers. And I want to say, can we promote this beyond? I want to see some of you must publish. That's no question. My chair said here, publications and research sections. You can't be promoted without publications whatsoever. You really cannot. That's the only measure we use. There's nothing. Even if you run on sports, you are employed to teach. Chair said here, teaching is makofi. Research, vikofi. Hata hakuna vikofi bado. Publications, akasema chairman nikuite, nami ni chairman kama yeye, niongee nanyi. Kwa hivyo really, it is publications here in Maasai Mara, where you are. Publications on the loss of fauna, loss of biodiversity, loss of vegetation, transportations all over here. Some people going to Maasai Mara deal with the environmental. Certain communities come and pollute your places here in Maasai Mara. And I told you last time I was here doing something else, that you guys are in the cradle of game. If it goes, you will go with it. How do you protect a strong policy paper that you can protect it? So really, courage, act, and academia on entrepreneurship. Agro-processing, I mentioned leather. We have actually, as National Research Fund, linking with Uganda National Commission for Science and Technology on artificial intelligence, again, doing it, but up to a level also. Cultural heritage, research, etc. You people are there to do it. Master plan for research for Tharaka, this university called, I'm actually a chancellor of Tharaka University, so my mind is always set there. But this is Maasai Mara University, which has got a different environment for impactful research. As I just about to finish, let me say this. Let us not stop research. New frontiers exist. You doubt on what you do, there's nothing wrong to not to get a result you accept, absolutely. In fact, during my research, I had one fail, Kapsa, on some season. And I said, I will actually start to repeat it. So I did it. You have already been very significant steps in this direction. I do not doubt that you will continue, finish, get your master's or PhD at some level, and go through a very interesting station. Let me tell you something that I thought I would mention to you. You know, mentorship is not just mentoring. You sit somebody in a room and I start telling them, I'm now mentoring you, Chair. It is unique, but really works miracles as you interact. You and me now are mentoring each other small. Whether you take one word of me or a whole sentence, a whole discussion, it's up to you. Let me mention something which I've never done, Chair, and I think you take note. When I was a VC myself, really, I put my works to the last detail. For my duration of education, for whole this duration, and probably when I was an associate and full professor, I want to mention names you might actually know. Just, Hunja, you may be interested in this. There are people I actually mentored, and they were very intelligent human beings who are now working. When you say, how do you mentor, or how do we call it, Hunja, this thing you train other people to take over. There's a word you use, I'll get it in a minute. Mentoring, other than mentoring, these people who support you, come number 2 to you. No, not poaching, no. There's a very short, interesting good word that you must train people to take, to come. The following names I want to mention, you might know them, were persons I literally worked. Not trained, but sitting trained. But we learned each other as we were working work. And they are now elsewhere, very senior people who are among your university people. And I'll mention their names like a song, very, very quickly, Chair. Those who really worked with me, for example, include Thairu, Mutua. Those were my deputies. All these people I'm mentioning will be my deputy at some point. So you work with me, you work with her, you mention a name. What is in a name is a lot more than perhaps when you write a CV or you write a reference letter. Thairu, Mutua, Onyango Late, Agong, Kaberia, Boga, Muatela, Odhiambo Romanos, who signs like me today, is in Mary University, Magambo, Erastus Injoka, Ngamau Kamau, Hutchinson, Imbuga, Ngumi, Kioni Ndirangu, Kipngeno, Teresia of Eldoret, Mary Ndugu of the other parts of the country where they grow rice. Gitonga Linus, she placed, Gitonga took over. Gudu here in Rongo, Muita, Mugendi, Peter Mushiri, a gentleman called Maranga Isabella, lady, Umwenga Elijah, Ispairo in Must, Nyarik in Muranga, Shitanda, Seuku, Sipora, Waithera Nganga, and then Joyce Miningwa, Turukana, and Julius Nyabundi. All those people, we work together. It's in a name. That is mentoring of a person to take over from anybody. Meaning, we talk, we sit, either in Senate, or in faculty, or in research collaboration, or other matters. These are 30-something persons. We have about 38 public universities. Most of these, even actually all of them, are present and former vice chancellors with a lot of thinking. And they are doing quality work of substance within this nation. You people, yourselves, researchers, will take these positions. Through research, even when you become interviewed as a VC or a DVC, you shall be asked the publications you did and the books you wrote. At least I have 3, 4, 5 books. Very good books, actually. And I think I didn't bring any copies here, but if you go to Sarit Center or textbook center someplace, or go to Amazon, you might get a book. Really, the last thing now I want to say this. I wish I had a work. Do you know in the US, UK, some places, when you get promotions from associate or even senior lecturer, Chair, you didn't know these ones. In other countries, you can be promoted in Maasai Mara to associate. But if you come now to another university called Dedan Kimathi, you will not go cross as associate. They have their baseline of grading you. I just spoke to some this morning, today, before I came, and I said I'll share this with you. And if they bring this, in fact, into bear, this country would have a lot of difference in discipline and in academic movements all over the country. US, even UK, some places. You can't move from one university, which is, I don't want to name the ones in this country now, which is slightly about there, where you have had your associate, and go to the next one, Ivy League, big universities, and say, I was a senior lecturer, or I was a full professor, and I like now to come horizontal. They tell you, sir or madam, go back, bring your papers, join us, yes, but tell us what level you really want to join. You tell them. They go into their publications and tell you, to us, you don't fit into this, let us leave you below where you are, otherwise you stay where you would be. What I'm saying, if this country, like now if I was an associate here, move to KU, I'll still go KU associate, still. But if KU had their measurement on how you move across horizontal, people would say, excuse me, let me do a lot more work, more publications, more research, so that if I go there, I actually can fit in that university. And they put you at a lower grade. You chose us, stay lower, prove that what you are now practicing, talking about, is simply a mighty one. So really, what I'm simply saying, if this someday somewhere, somebody said you don't just move horizontal, publish or don't come to us, or change that documentation to us. So really, guys, I've talked a lot and I've done that. Chair, you allowed me. The VC is just out. And Madam, I do hope one day we shall sit down and think about higher time thinking of our universities and particularly research, and even award. Like now, the National Research Fund will be having, August this year, a very big meeting on second research celebrations in Edgerton University, which is actually in collaboration with us, and you are all invited. Prof, I finished on a very serious note on moving across horizontally, but I think I'll share with you this. You can't move in universities worldwide. That I was a professor here, now I go to Dead and Kimathi and be the same level. No. Dead and Kimathi will say, hold. We want to check on you first. Sit back. Get it? Lower. Let's see the comparative publications that Dead and Kimathi has set according to their standards vis-a-vis Maasai Mara University. Thank you so much for listening. I've taken a lot. I'm going to be here with you through. And if I have another chance, I'll throw you another bombshell. I wish you well, and I thank you so, so much. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Really, it's my singular pleasure, like politicians say, to invite our PCS sitting in for the CS is my good friend, Dr. Hunja, who actually came, and she's one of the very best speakers I've had. Give her a clap again, really. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Karibu sana. Unajua sicha kuchokesha. Nimekuchokesha nyinyi? Bado. Pitia huku. Hata hapa hamna sanduku.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Yes, as you've been told, I'm Dr. Carol Hunja, Secretary, Higher Education and Research. And I'm here on behalf of the Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Julius Ogamba, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Education. He called me quite late yesterday evening. He was actually planning to come up to yesterday evening, but he called me and asked me to come here on his behalf. Something seems to have come up, but up to late evening, he was truly committed to come and be with you, but he sends many regards and warm regards to you. I also was with my principal secretary, Dr. Beatrice Sinyangala. A phone seems to be ringing somewhere. And she also sent me with warm regards to you. So as you stand here, the government fully stands with you and is here to support you. Before I make my speech, I think he stepped out. I think he's your director of research. I worked with him, very closely with him, when I was at Southeastern Kenya University before I joined the ministry. And so I can say Maasai Mara feels like home, though I've never been here. Yesterday, I really wanted to spend the night in Narok, but I attended a very interesting event, and I think it is very relevant, especially for what we are doing here. We were in an event together with Professor Andala, CEO, National Research Fund, and we had a team that is thinking of enhancing education research in Africa. Now, I thought that was a very, very appropriate event, especially for you and to share it with you. Mostly because the things we were discussing are talking to the kind of environment we are in today. As a postgraduate student, one of the things I want you to do is to shut your ears to the people who tell you negative things. You can never, ever, ever go wrong with education. Never. I am a witness. I have told you that about 23 years ago, I walked into your VC's office. I was not even a master's student. I was seeking advice on becoming a master's student. And today, I stand here, sit with her on the same platform because I have a PhD. Not just the master's I was asking about, by the PhD. I need you to shut your ears and know that you are highly privileged and you are sitting on opportunities. Why am I saying this? In Africa, in Kenya, something interesting has happened. A lot of external research funding is being withdrawn currently. You've heard of the issues that have been going on with the US aid, among others. It's happening across the board, by the way, happening in Europe, EU, research in Africa and in Kenya. So that now we can identify priority areas of research, and we can also ensure that we have ample resources to solve our myriads of problems using homegrown solutions. And that is what we are saying. And so when I attended the event yesterday, I thought it was highly appropriate. And this is what we are thinking of. And so even as you sit here as a postgraduate student, I would like to assure you that the future is very, very bright. Biennial Postgraduate Students Conference 2025. And the topic that I'm sharing with you is the future of higher education and research in Kenya. And some of the remarks I've made clearly allude to this at the beginning of my speech. Kenya has made significant strides in expanding access to higher education over the past 2 decades. We have indeed witnessed a remarkable increase in the number of universities, colleges, and TVETs, which has provided opportunities for many of our young people to pursue their dreams. And indeed, that shows how much importance we place on the young people by ensuring that we have the institutions, we have the infrastructure to support you, even as you pursue research, academia, and various other important pursuits. But we also acknowledge that challenges exist. Thank you. Challenges exist, and this include issues such as quality assurance, the relevance of the curriculum, and I want to believe that the relevance of the curriculum is soon going to be a thing of the past with the current rollout of the competency-based education and training. You know that we are reviewing curricula to make sure that they are highly significant and relevant to ensuring that young people are skilled in what they do. And the need for research that addresses local and global challenges. And we're saying we now want to identify priority areas of research that focus on our local problems and that ensure we develop local solutions that will be highly sustainable. The current landscape of higher education in Kenya is highly inclusive, innovative, and impactful. We want, or we aim to create a system that not only produces graduates with the necessary skills, but we're also looking at very, very important aspects for you to be able to survive in life. We need you to be innovative. We need you to be highly creative. And we also need you to be a critical thinker. Every day, I lament when I hear about the Gen Z, not because they are agitating us as a government, but because I feel they are highly reactive and not critical in their thinking. If only Gen Z would sit back, analyze, crystallize, and then critique the issues that we are facing and then react. But most of them, and this is something we are doing, rapidly in every way possible with the CBET curriculum. And this involves regular curriculum reviews and partnerships with industries to provide practical experiences for our students. We are also looking toward research and innovation because research is highly pertinent in a growing and expanding and a visionary population. We must invest in research that addresses our unique challenges, some of which have been mentioned by Professor Micheka quite well. Climate change is a huge, huge issue. Issues of food security, issues of health, they still continue to plague us, and they will always plague us. And so we need to start thinking of innovative and creative ways in which we can constantly and sustainably develop solutions. We encourage interdisciplinary research and collaboration between institutions, which will help us to work effectively. We are now looking at the statistics in terms of the research output by African researchers, and it is a very, very grim outlook. Most of us want to collaborate with researchers outside of Africa because we feel we will enhance our name and we will, of course, stand a great chance of being funded. And so when you look at the statistics, you find that most of us publish greatly with external researchers. But when you look at how much we are willing to carry out what is known as intra-Africa collaboration, highly minimal. Even me, from where I sit as a ministry, I process MOUs focusing toward the north. US, UK, Belgium. Rarely do I process an MOU between Kenya and, say, Burkina Faso, Kenya and Nigeria. Very rarely. We are saying, let us now think of looking inward in our region and fostering intra-Africa collaboration. It has been indicated that even in terms of research output, currently, of the global research output, in Africa, we contribute only 3%. I hope as you sit here as a postgraduate student, you're thinking, wow, I cannot wait to contribute the 97% to take us to 100% in Africa. That is what I hope is ringing in your heads. Do not be discouraged, but think of it as an opportunity. In the meeting we had yesterday, we were thinking that by 2030, we are hoping to double that from 3% to at least 6% as we continue moving onward. And so you are the people who can drive this kind of initiatives. You know that with technological integration is what will push us into the future. We must leverage on the existing AI and digital tools that are in existence and make them a part of our lives. Yesterday, I heard someone mention and say that when ChatGPT and other apps came into, when they were discovered, we in academia, we pushed them away and said, oh my gosh, they are going to encourage plagiarism. They are going to encourage a lot of, issues. Our students will become lazy. But can you imagine personally, when I did my master's and PhD, I never stepped into a library to source for a book. Why? Because I had Google. At my level, I had Google. I used to go to Google. There were thousands of ebooks available. There were thousands of publications available that informed my study. So, how much more can you leverage on those digital tools? Make them enhance your capacity and ability to carry out your studies effectively and efficiently. And by the way, if you do not leverage on these technologies, we are going to continue lagging behind, because countries in the West are truly using these tools, and they are working together with the tools and ensuring that they really, really carry out research in an effective and efficient manner. We also encourage global collaboration and intra-Africa collaboration, because through this we are able to benchmark and identify best practices for carrying out research and for establishing our systems of governance when we are carrying out this research. We must also ensure that we encourage equity and inclusion. This is a song that will never last. We must ensure that education, higher education, is accessible to all, regardless of the socioeconomic background. We constantly ensure that we are developing special programs and scholarships to support groups that are marginalized and to promote diversity within our institutions, and that is very, very important. I reiterate as I conclude that the future of higher education, the future of research is truly bright. When I sit here and I see all of you, I see potential, I see opportunity, I see growth. As we embark on this journey, let us remember that education is not just about acquiring knowledge, it is empowering you as young people to contribute positively to society. Together, we can build a robust higher education system. Together, we can carry out research that not only meets the needs of our nation, but also ensures that our students are able to thrive in a globalized world. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to working with you all to realize the future of higher education and research in Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thought-provoking. Thank you very much. Okay. This is yours. I think the CS deserves a better clap, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Hunja. You know, when you mentor somebody well, they'll never forget you. I don't actually remember that she came to my office, but she says that I mentored her well. So clap for me for that. Thank you very much. I want to appreciate the CS rep for that thought-provoking speech. We had expected the CS, but by yesterday evening, I was told that another event has come up, like she has explained, but the ministry will send a representative. And I'm happy that the ministry has recognized this effort of what we are doing. I think there's something that my chairman mentioned that I want to echo and blow it out of proportion.
This is the first ever biannual postgraduate conference being held in Kenya. Can we clap for Maasai Mara? Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to recognize one of our partners, Nathan, from Akofe. Nathan, you can stand and wave. Nathan is a very close friend of Maasai Mara University. I know we do a lot of work together. He's from an organization called Akofe. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have come to the end of this session, but I've been told that one or two people may have a question, particularly for the Professor Emeritus. Is there anybody with a question for the Professor Emeritus? Or a comment? I'm told to give 3 minutes for this before I hand over to the chair of the organizing committee. Question, comment, observation, anything that you'd like to raise at this moment, because we are bringing this to a close, and then we go to the next session. Yes, there's a hand at the back there. Tell us your name and where you come from. And I was told that there's a large group from Karatina University. Can I see you people? Karatina, stand up. Karatina, stand up. That's my former home. Clap for them. Not long ago, karibuni sana. Please take our regards back to Karatina. Not long ago, I was for a long time the DVC in charge of research and academic affairs at Karatina University until last year but one, in June, when they thought I had overstayed there for too long. I needed to come to a new institution. So, sorry? Professor Emeritus says, can I recognize Jomo Kenyatta? Jomo Kenyatta, because I think he had read the list and saw some universities are overrepresented. JK, you at where are you? Wave to us. Thank you very much. Bomet is also in the house. Where is Bomet? I'm told Bomet is also in the house. Oh, they are still coming. Bomet is there. Clap for them. You know now, Professor Emeritus has taken my job over. He's advising that I also recognize Tharaka Nithi students. Where are you? Tharaka Nithi, where are you? Please stand up. Yes. Yes, there they are. Kenyatta University, my former home. Yes, look at them. Thank you very much. I started my tutorial fellow at Kenyatta University, so I have a soft spot for KU. UON, the mother of all university. Are you here? University of Nairobi? Yes, at the back. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I am an alumni of University of Nairobi. Have I left out any university? Tuk. Yes, I know Tuk is here. I met them yesterday. Technical University, can we see you? Technical University. There she is. Yes, and the gentleman. Egerton, are you here? Egerton, my neighbor, yes. There they are. Maseno. Anybody from, look at them, they are here. I hope they brought tilapia from the lake. Then Tomboya is also around the lake. Is Tomboya here? Tomboya University, they are absent without apology. Rongo University. Tomboya is here? No? Rongo, can we see Rongo? A clap for them. 2 of them, thank you very much. Jaramogi, I'm still in Western Kenya. Thank you very much. Kibabi. Yes. Wow. Professor Emeritus, you can see this is a real national event. Masinde Muliro. Masinde Muliro is there. Thank you. Thank you very much. Kaimosi.
Yeah, even Canada.
Kaimosi University. Kaimosi are also absent without apology. I'm coming down, Professor. Kisii University. Anybody from Kisii? Yes, my goodness, a large group. Thank you very much. Kabianga. Is Kabianga around? Kabianga. Where are they? I've not seen Kabianga. Please. There they are. Thank you very much. Wow. I'm now crossing over because I've been to the Rift Valley. Now, let me go back to Mrima, the mountain. We already recognized Karatina. Anybody from Dekut? Didan Kimathi? Didan Kimathi, they are absent without apology. Can I see if there's anybody from Kirinyaga? Sorry? Yes, I'm coming. I'm coming. Kirinyaga. Kirinyaga is not there. They are also absent. Muranga. Yes, there's a lady there. Let's clap for her. Mount Kenya. Thank you very much. Methodist? Anybody from Methodist? No. Daystar University? No. Okay, I'm going to the coast. Sorry? Catholic, yes, the Catholic University. Where are they? Yeah. We appreciate you for those powerful prayers, sister. Catholic Father Mbugwa is a very close friend of mine. I now want to cross over to the coast. Anybody from Pwani? Yes. I hope you brought some seafood for us to share. Somebody from Taita Taveta? Taita Taveta, are you here? No, there's nobody from Taita Taveta. Then I want to go to TUM, Technical University of Mombasa. Watu wa Pwani ni mmoja tu ndo amekuja. Did I leave any university out before I recognize the last one here? Yes, at the back. Which university? Sorry? Pioneer University. Stand up, we recognize you. Thank you very much. Pass our regards. Any other? How can I forget Strathmore? Strathmore, please, can you stand up? We recognize you. Pass our regards to the Vice Chancellor. I'm told that when people want to do MBA and you try to register at Strathmore and you don't get an opportunity, you'd rather wait. Even if you are going to be registered in 2 years' time. You'll tell us the secret behind your MBA. Thank you very much. Last but not least, any local university that I've not recognized from Kenya? PAC. That is my university. Can we clap for them? I'm saying PAC is my university because I'm a Valley Rodian, so you understand what I mean. Thank you very much. I think I've recognized all the universities. Once more, I know everybody has welcomed you, but once more, as the Vice Chancellor of this university, you don't know how proud I am that you're gathered here to share your research findings. Please feel at home. Like Professor said, if you didn't know that Narok can be cold, we have a lot of Maasai blankets. You can walk to town and pick one at about 600 shillings so that you keep yourself warm. At this juncture, I want to recognize the last university, and then I hand over to the chair of the committee. I don't know where she is. Professor Manyasi, where are you? Okay. Yes, Chair, let me recognize this, and then I give Chair something to say. University of Toronto is here. My goodness. Can you imagine that? Please, can you stand up, University of Toronto? Oh my, oh my, oh my. Dr. Naikuni, you should have told me this. So you are telling us that we should not call this a national biannual. From that, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, we are changing the title to International Biannual. Thank you very much. Karibu sana, welcome. University of Toronto Chair of Council, you had something to say? Yes, why did I assume? Maasai Mara University, the host. Maasai Mara University, the host. They are, wow. Wow, 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 wow. They are there, Chairman. Can you stand up again? I want to give the Chairman statistics. Maasai Mara, stand up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Almost 15 of them. A clap for them. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. As the hosts, we needed to have a large number like that because we are the ones who are hosting the conference. Thank you very much. Once more, this is the first conference for postgraduates of its kind, and it has changed from national to international. Allow me to recognize a gentleman who just came and sat quietly. This gentleman and I have walked a long journey. Dr. Ruenjo, please wave to us. A clap for him. How many of us have heard of DAAD? D-A-A-D. All right, and how many of us have been sponsored by DAAD? Very good. I and Dr. Ruenjo have been officials in DAAD. At one time I was the president, they called them presidents, and then I handed over to him as the president, and then he handed over to somebody. A clap for the two of us. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to give the chair of the organizing committee to tell us what to do. Yes, emeritus. Sorry, one person raised their hand. Please go on before I hand over to the organizing chair. Okay, we start from here, and then I go to the gentleman at the back. Two only, and then we break.
Yeah. My name is Peter Nganga from Mount Kenya University.
Yes.
First, I thank the organizer of this conference for this privilege. I have some observations that I would like the conference organizer to take care of. From the gate to the venue, myself, I had to look for other funds to continue. My request to the fund is that you have a consideration, Dr. Huja, even in the ministry, of you cannot always say there will be inclusivity if you're not helping the PWD to reach the level you are. Because if you look at all the universities, I've never seen that inclusivity in the higher levels. Even if you look at the cabinet secretaries, you rarely see one with a wheelchair, blind, a deaf, come to many positions in the county government. I would like somebody here to do a research on inclusivity of PWDs in Kenya government and the hindrance to that inclusivity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a powerful observation. Inclusivity. Professor Emeritus, I would suggest that because he would like to know how funds are allocated, perhaps he can engage you during tea break, and then you can have one-on-one. Very good observations. Yeah. 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 Thank you, Professor. The last one is at the back. There was a hand at the back. Please make it very brief. No, a gentleman here. Sorry. I know that one is... Give the lady a mic, because now we have just talked about inclusivity. 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you.
And one question.
Yes. So my name is Nightingale Wakigera, and I'm from the organization where Nathan is from, ACOFE. So we're looking at health and environment. And Professor Emeritus, you talked about really looking into innovation and research, and you also mentioned the potatoes and the pesticides. And we're in a region that is feeding the country in a big way. We're also kind of crying about the soils in this region and the use and misuse of the soils. And so I'm thinking that it would be good for us to also really put a focus on that, even as we look at the meat industry, the skins industry from this region, to also think about the soils. So it's a question that I would like to further with you, but just an observation.
Okay, very good observation. Professor, you can have a tete-a-tete with her during... You want to comment?
Let me really, I think as you go to him, please, let me say this.
Yes.
I'm not an advocate whatsoever, of any pesticides whatsoever at all. Soils, plants, humans, microorganisms whatsoever. But the synthesis, the making of these compounds in the process of releasing one into the market takes... You are right. Our soils being spoiled, contaminated, and you are right. That's why you don't even see now pollinators, insects, butterflies, etc., because of some of those compounds that kill them. So you people study the effect of some compounds I said it, on microorganisms, insects, humans, etc. You can actually do it in health sciences, which your university has very well. We can still engage you and me together. But please, I never suggest you use. The ones I use myself, I know 100% how they break down to useless compounds once they land elsewhere. And the Kenyans should do the same thing. You need food, you need increment.
Thank you.
At the same time, you cannot leave it out.
Thank you very much, Professor. Let's clap for him.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, the last question is there. Please, one only, and make it brief.
Thanks, Prof. I'm Silas Onyanga of Kisii University. Professor, allow me to ask just one question, and I want to round it up with a summary of your word, which, as I summarize, you say that you should not just sit down and see what high-income countries are doing as we clap our hands to them. It is high time we should arise and create a better alternative solution to our problem. Now, this will be confirmed by a good friend of mine, Professor Nathan Oyaro, that in health, even if we look onto our NRF funds on health, most of our proposals are being put aside because of the high budget which we have. So kindly, even if you go back to the office, kindly do us something onto the health budget, because most of us usually don't get the fund simply because of the high budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Before Professor comes, just start coming. I just want to round it up this way with something that the CS mentioned in his speech. He said that we should do intra-Africa collaborations. Very critical. About a month or two ago, I was attending what they called Africa Summit of the Chamber of Commerce across the world in Nairobi. And during a session where we were brainstorming, the issue of USAID pulling out came out very strongly. And people were saying, oh, now we have to think of what we are going to do because the way the US is doing things now has changed, and all that. There was a lot of lamentations. Then I raised my hand and said this: change has come, and change is good. Because when change comes, you start thinking how you are going to survive. I am an ecologist, and I told them, in an ecosystem, when change comes, there are only two things that you can do. You can either change with the change, or the change will change you. For us in Africa, can we change with the change and find our local solutions through our own research that addresses our challenges? The ball is in the court of you people, the postgraduates. Thank you very much, Professor. Go on.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Thank you for what you have raised about the sign language and lack of assistance. So we are going to work on it. Thank you for that. It was an oversight on our side. I would like also to request the participants. We have a secretariat. On our committee, we had 3. We had Mr. Galfen Omuse. We have Marjan Abdallah. I think he has just stepped out, and Golda Mayaka. But we have increased the number. We have more secretariats seated there. If you have any issue, kindly just reach out to the secretariat. Will be assisted. The next, I would like the MC to announce where we are going from here.
Thank you. Let us appreciate all our guests. I'll show you how to do it. I want us to give them a 5 factorial seismic clap to appreciate all our guests. Are you ready? Okay, warm your hands like this, everyone. You ready? We're going to go 5, 4, then up to 1. Okay, 1, 2, 3, we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, thank you. So up next, we are going to go for a group photo here at Ontimama Square in front of Senate Boardroom. And then thereafter, we're going to go for a brief tree planting session. The front desk will plant trees behind the Senate boardroom, and the rest of us will be shown a place to plant the trees. So, at the Senate boardroom, we shall have Kemboi, who will coordinate that. And for the rest of the other delegates, we have Catherine Masikonte. So I would like to request you now to proceed for the group photo and the tree planting session. Then thereafter, we shall come back for tea. Okay, let us allow our guests to exit first, then the rest of us can follow. So as we exit, if you don't have a program, please be free to pick a program at the registration desk.
Differential cross-section for magnesium, so as the results from this element can help us to
Thank you.
ICT, please. Project.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah. So once we project there, I'll ask us to go to slide 17. Once you've projected, just go to slide 17. There's a short video there you can play, and then we can get started. In the meantime, as you heard my name, okay, so in the meantime, I'll just be introducing myself. My name is Wilfred Moria. I work with Victoria Ventures. Victoria Ventures is consultancy, advisory, and fund management organization or company based in Nairobi. We do a number of things, including advising companies of various sizes, from startups to major corporations on valuation, making financial decisions, investments, and so on. We also, in one practice of our business, help startups raise capital, typically venture capital, and then we also run a number of programs with regards to access to capital. And one of the programs we are running is with the Kenya National Innovation Agency, Kenya, called Research to Commercialization. So for the last almost 2 years, we have been working with various institutions, and that, I believe that's how we became familiar with Marjan, Dr. Marjan, and a number of your other colleagues, where we were taking essentially postgraduate students and even beyond through how do you commercialize, how do you go from knowledge, intellectual property, to commercialization, or to a product and to a business. So that program is called Research to Commercialization, and it's really the context under which I'm in here. And the topic I was given to speak on in the next 30 minutes, I guess, I'll try to adjust it as best as I can, is on commercializing your innovation. So I don't know, if I had time, I would have wanted to know who's in the audience and what sort of capacity we're in. I'm at least sure we have physicists in the room from that one last presentation. I'm sure we have physicists in the room. I don't know whether we have people from any other disciplines, humanities, what? All across the board. Okay, so that makes it a bit more interesting. But let's play this, then we can start. Just click on the image. Just go to the slide and click on the image. Just click on the image and it should play. So as I said, my role is to try and enlighten us a bit on commercialization. And this short video I have found really speaks volumes when it comes to commercialization. By which I mean taking a product that you've created or an innovation. Okay, if you give me this, then I'll change my approach. I think I'll change my approach then now that I've been given this. Okay, cool. Na tafadhali, please smile for the speaker. It's a bit intimidating standing up here, so please smile for the speaker or show some engagement while we are going on. So like I said, I'll just take a different approach. I'll just run through the slides a little bit quickly and then highlight a few things. As I said, the topic is commercializing your innovation, or how do you get to commercialization, productization, and what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? In fact, the topic was commercializing, innovation, commercialization, and entrepreneurship. Yeah? And that's the background of it. And what I hope, there are so many things we can say around entrepreneurship. It's a really huge thing. And there are so many aspects we can talk about, but what I hope to impress upon you is what I think is perhaps the most important. Someone who determines that what you have is a viable product and therefore a basis for commercialization. Whatever it is that you're building, right? Your basis for commercialization is that you have a customer. And so what I'll be trying to convince you by the end of this presentation is how critical it is. Case study that we do in one of the sessions with Kenya around, and the case study is, I forget the university, I don't know whether it's Cambridge or where they essentially developed a lot of the basic technology that goes into the LCD screens. It's not even the LCD, the ones that came after the LCD screens. And it's a story of how these scientists went from building this raw technology that was very much like what we had this morning, up to where the phone you're holding right now has their technology, and how they managed to commercialize that or commercialize that IP. But that could be a story for another day. But the principle is, it is the customer who determines that what you have is a viable product. Now, I have another discussion question for us. How does the customer make this determination? If hopefully you agree with me that it is the customer who determines that what you have is a viable product and a basis for commercialization, how does that customer make this determination? And you can discuss. You can talk with each other, please. Please talk with each other. Yeah? How does a customer, it's a very simple question, I don't know. I wish I could get volunteers to tell me what they think. How does the customer determine that what you have is a basis for commercialization? It meets their needs. I've heard that before. It caters for... Sorry, I know I'm giving you a lot of work. Yeah. Okay, so how do they make this determination? And it's at the basic level, it is simply about what you see on the screen. A customer makes the determination for you that what you have is a viable basis for commercialization based on the fact that they are very simply willing to pay for it. Now, whether after they pay what they bought meets their needs and therefore they come to buy again is a secondary question. But in the first place, are they willing to pay for the product that you're offering or the service that you're offering? Yeah? And really, it's not so much the money that they're paying. I want us to think a little bit here, and this is basic logic. It's really about their willingness and ability to part with something that they have, which is the money that they have and that they value. I don't know whether anyone has money in their pocket. Nowadays, we carry money in our phones. But if you have money in your pocket, or at least on your phone, hopefully you value your money, isn't it? It is something of value to you. That's why it's called a store of value, right? So it's not so much that, it's not so much the money itself, it's not so much the store of value that we're discussing about here. It is their willingness of the customer and the ability of that customer to part with what they have, which is their money, something they have and they value, in exchange for what you're offering, because they believe that what you are offering is valuable, is more valuable than what they have. So again, think about it. Basic transaction. You go to the shop, you want bread, you have money. When you do that exchange with a person, what you're saying is the 100 shillings I have is less valuable to me right now than the bread I want to get from you. Okay? And that is the basis of commercialization again. What you're trying to get at is when I take my knowledge or my research that I have done and I have created an innovation and I want to take it to market, can I, even before I go too far, I go borrowing money and taking out a loan at my bank and importing equipment? And we've seen this often where, I'll give you another real life story. One of the entrepreneurs I personally advised at some point, they had a product and they went to market with the product. They started selling kidogo kidogo. Then almost immediately they were like, we need to be expanding. So they put machinery, they went to China, shopped for machinery, put it on a ship, and shipped it here. Unfortunately, they had misread the market, and they had borrowed money to import. Okay? So as best as you can, what you want to determine is there a viable customer? And are there enough of those customers for them to sustain the business that I have? Again, what a customer might look like also depends on what sort of product you're developing. Okay? If you're developing, I don't know, if you're Elon Musk, let me not use Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk nowadays. If you are, somebody who's developing, I don't know, Bombardier is a company that comes to mind. They make private jets. Yeah? It's a big company, they make private jets. If you're a company that makes private jets, the nature of your customer is probably you only need to sell a few in a year, only that you're selling one for multiple millions of dollars, right? If you are festive bakeries in Kenya, you have to make more of that unit, so you need more of those customers or customers making enough repeat purchases at 50 shillings each for you to have a basis for scaling significantly. So the nature of the customer also to an extent depends on what sort of product it is that you're making. And when I say product, it could be a good, physical good, it could be a service, but one thing that is often overlooked is that knowledge in itself is a product, right? Intellectual property is a product that you can sell. The sort of knowledge that we got from the presentation that came before me is something that is a product in itself and that could have a customer that you can sell. So if I come back to the slide I started with, the typical business approach, you have a concept or a business plan, maybe you go to the bank, you get some money to start, you do product development. What's the biggest risk with this? Right? Maybe you can discuss with your neighbor as I catch my breath. What's the biggest risk with this approach? Would all of us agree that this is the typical business approach? Yes, no? Raise your hand. Typical. There are variations, but typically. And here I'm talking about something, you're starting a business more than that one of Situfungue Duka. Let's start a shop, a neighborhood shop. I'm talking about maybe you're doing something more substantive, right? So what is the biggest risk with this approach? And maybe I'll conclude on this because of time. What's the biggest risk? Discuss with someone. You can't tell me, so please turn to somebody. My session is a bit like attending church, so please talk to someone. Talk to your neighbor. Okay, what's the biggest risk with this approach? And this is what I wanted to start with. So this is what I see is the biggest risk with doing business with this approach. Yeah. So this is Mr. Startupper down here. I don't know if anyone has ever seen this video. Probably someone has seen. So that's Mr. Startupper there, an entrepreneur. He has a big idea. He thinks it's the best idea in the world. He's done his research. He has an innovation. He goes for competitions and pitch sessions, and he has social media approval. And, he's going to rock it. He's going to go to market, and he's going to be the next Bill Gates. Yeah? But are you sure about this? So he has his business plan, attends an incubator, an accelerator. He does his growth hacking and marketing. He has his elevator pitch all right. And then he meets the market. Yeah? And then he meets the market. I don't know. Did everyone get that? Or maybe I should play it again. Should I play it again? Did anyone miss that? Yeah? Okay. Let me not play it again. Okay. The biggest risk with this approach, and below there is the standard approach, and there is sort of the research, innovation kind of approach, is this. When you're doing your product development, product testing, etc., you're largely in what you'd call a production environment, which is a very controlled environment. Okay? And I'd pray everyone who does IT or tech of some sort, please pay attention to this. Technology does not work the same in the real world as it does on your computer, on your coding, from experience. But you're in a production environment, which is highly controlled. You're in a university setting, perhaps. This is your final year project, very controlled, which is very different than what you find in the real world. So if you are going to take the approach of starting, you have 5, 6, 7, 10 years in the lab, and then maybe another 2 years here. By the time you get to the real world, first, things are changing. The real world is always changing. Secondly, you're shielded from what the real world is like in terms of what they will buy, what consumer behavior is like, and so on and so forth. So, So the truth is that if you look at the slide back here, many companies or many research-based innovations fail at this point. I'm sure you've seen this kind of thing before. From the time you go from research and development, and you have the view of commercializing and creating your technology, there is a big risk that you'll never get to the end of it. Yeah. And the other premise which I'd like to leave us with is the sooner you can prove, or the sooner you can start proving your product concept, the concept you have, don't call it a product, it's the concept you have for a product. The sooner you can prove that product concept against a real paying customer, the better. Again, caveat here is your intention is to commercialize, because many times you create knowledge for the sake of knowledge, which is a good thing in itself. Okay, you can create knowledge because you're a researcher, you enjoy doing research, you want to contribute knowledge, and that's okay. Yeah, but if your intention is to take what you're doing and commercialize it, then you want to be checking, or you want to have an interface with your potential customer at the earliest possible. When is the earliest possible depends on what sort of product you're developing and for what sort of customer. So if you're developing, I like that his presentation came before me because I can keep using it as an example. If you're doing that sort of thing where it is kind of you're creating raw knowledge, then of necessity perhaps the earliest you can get that to maybe an industrial customer or a scientific customer who's willing to buy this, or if you're doing biopharmaceutical research, the earliest 5, 6, 7 years, just 10 years, just by the nature of what you're developing. On the other hand, if you're developing an IT-based product, a program, a website or something, you can almost get to your customer instantaneously, because you can deploy almost instantaneously, and you can start getting customers. You can start having people using the product and giving you feedback almost instantaneously. Okay? But still, the earlier in your product development, in your research development cycle, the earlier you can start interacting with real customers to understand not just whether this fits their needs, but whether they would be willing to pay for this, then the better. Okay? I always add the caveat that it might be a little painful and your ego may get broken in the process, because often you approach customers and customers are, they tell you in no uncertain terms, this is not working. Okay. So that's about it. I'll skip most of these slides. All I wanted to do was sensitize us. I'll maybe make a mention on this slide because of time. I don't know how much time I have. Yeah. So I'll just make a mention on this slide. And this is sort of the solution to that conundrum of how do you bridge the need to be doing your research and development, your decision to commercialize, getting to product development, and then going to the real world. And what we teach is adding a layer of what we call customer-led development alongside product-led development, where you are constantly checking with the market, or at least instead of developing this complicated thing and then presenting it to your customer hoping that they'll start buying, you do it in incremental phases or incremental steps. I've been told to conclude in 5 minutes. So all of these things you can see here, just assume they are true. And you can also have a look at that slide. This is what we call the commercialization journey. It's really a summary of what we try to teach researchers to follow, as far as going from your research concept into commercialization. I think I'll stop at that point. But just to summarize, for me is know your customer. If you're making the decision to commercialize, at the earliest stage, try to get a sense of who that end customer is. Whether it's an industrial customer, a scientific customer, consumer at the very bottom of the chain, whatever it is. The other key takeout I'd have is, we have products that are goods, services, but knowledge in itself is a product, often overlooked. But consider the knowledge you're creating. Is there a buyer for that knowledge in one form or another? I don't know whether there's any question, but I'll leave it at that.
A round of applause to him. Knowledge in itself is a product that you can commercialize. So I would like to take this opportunity to invite a few questions, 2 questions to the presenter before we break out for lunch. Anyone who wants to go first? Here, then the lady.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a really good presentation. I loved it.
Thanks.
And market, you said, is the actual determinant of whether a product is good or bad. What is your advice to the innovators in the room when you're operating in a very constrained environment? It takes money to develop, and it takes money to buy the product. But what is your advice? Because I think there isn't a lot of money where we operate. Or what is your view on it? Just a comment.
Thank you. We can pick 2 questions, then allow to respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I was actually hoping to hear more about the research to commercialization projects that you're working with Kenya, because the status of the labs in Kenya are designed for basic research, even at postgraduate level. So how then do we increase that research to commercialization? Because we need to get to a level where we are doing advanced research in order to commercialize, come up with new methods, products. But the status of our labs as they are now, they're a bit wanting. So what's the wake-up call in terms of working with what we have? Because we cannot advance beyond what we have within a short time. So how can we go about that? Thank you.
Okay, maybe I'll take those 2 first. Yes. The second one, I'm not sure I can give you a straight answer because I don't think it's my place. I don't think I have enough. I understand the problem, understand the question. I'm not in a position to address the question. I think that would have been a question for somebody who's involved at a policy level and at an infrastructure creation level. So if you'll have, for instance, Dr. Tony Omwansa coming at any point, that would be a great question for him, because they are the ones who are sitting at the table as far as creating the national innovation ecosystem. But I understand the problem. There's a limitation as far as what you can do with what you have. Second question is around funding, which is a complex question. I think in the environment, which way, and again I appreciate the question where it is coming from, the environment which we are working with is you just have to be aggressive about finding what is available, because you're right, there isn't so much that is available. So competitions or one of the initiatives which we have, which I hope will come to fruition at some point with Kenya, through the research to commercialization program, was to create an innovation fund. I think we're all aware that there's a research fund. Much as I am aware it has its own dynamics. But one of the ideas we proposed to them is to create an innovation fund that is not for funding research as primary research as it were, but for funding commercialization of research. So that's one initiative which I hope takes root. There are a few organizations, Lemelson Foundation and a few others, who you have small pockets of money around for academia. So that is just basically researching. Most of them are usually online. UK Kenya Tech Hub, I think we've worked with them, and they have through research innovation systems for Africa have something around that. There's another initiative I'm forgetting that's related to space technologies, but you just have to look. We just have to look for any source and every source that's available. There's no shortcut to that, but it's not like we have a huge amount of funding that's even coming through the university ecosystem. Again, unfortunately. But if you can crack that nut and be able to find a little money here, there, and everywhere, especially in form of grants at the early stages, and get to a point where you have a product that is proving a product market and product customer fit, then the world opens up much more. Because then there are more sources of funding from, depending on what you're doing, venture capital and so on. Yeah. Again, a difficult question to answer.
Thank you. I'll take another round of questions. If you have a burning question, 2 behind here. Who went first here? Okay.
Thank you. I'm Emmanuel, a student in this school. Now, from your presentation, I've just seen that commercialization is a journey from a point to a certain point. So as an entrepreneur or a business person or a researcher, how do you track in your journey, how do you track or how do you know that your efforts will pay you so that you don't wait to the last point and then you fail? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me answer that first question. So, in this slide here, entrepreneurship looks like a straight line, like a linear journey. And this is more for visualization than what reality is. In reality, it's more like this. And I didn't go into these slides, but you can see the circles and the iteration that is happening. So even if you're doing customer discovery, and I didn't define what that is, but at any of those stages in the previous slide, it is always iterative. Yeah, it's not a straight line journey. As for how you can keep track of yourself, I don't know that I can answer that. It's a wide question, but I think there are cues at every point. If you're doing an IT-based product, it is usually very simple because you can build metrics into the product and you can have people doing tests and using the product and you get, let me tell you an interesting story here by the way on that note. I don't know that you've read Eric Ries's book, but if you've heard of Eric Ries, he tells the story, forget what the book is called, but he tells the story of how, this is a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, and he tells the story of how they were building a product, a game or something, and they built this product, they got it to a point and they were like, now let's get a focus group to test the product to see whether it works. And they got people to come and sit down and they had a blind test. So they had people sitting in a room, they would give them the product, open it on a laptop and get the person to start using. And at one point, one of the functions was inviting another friend to use the product. And they would get stuck. No one wanted to invite their friend to use the same product. And that's when he got the insight that, we might as well have built one button and asked the person, will you click it or not? It dawned on him that all that effort that they took to get to that point was largely moot because, they couldn't proceed. So the thing is, like I said, as early as possible, getting insights. Many of the products that you see, even when Safaricom launches a product, be sure that that product has been tested with users in private testing for probably even a month or a year before it goes to public launch. Yeah? So even the big corporates have learned the lesson. You don't try and come to market and say, we've invested 300 billion, here is M-Pesa, use it. Yeah. So it's iterative.
Thank you, Wilfred. My name is Mwita Chacha. By virtue that you are here on behalf of Victoria Ventures, is Victoria Ventures open to partnering with the postgraduate researchers to pilot commercialization for promising research? I believe that you could be here for such opportunities. Secondly, postgraduate researchers normally focus on tackling scientific problem and societal problems. I really wanted to hear on research for commercialization, how to bridge the gap between addressing a societal problem or rather a scientific problem, and at the same time making sure that your thesis or rather project is commercially viable.
Okay, so I'll start with the second question. There's a different session we do called starting with the end in mind. And the bottom line of starting with the end in mind is when you're getting, as a postgraduate student, you're getting to start your research. And many times I know we are driven by, I say we because I'm in this boat, we are driven by you need to do a product to qualify for the program that you're doing. I think it is starting with the end in mind. What are you looking for? If you have the entrepreneurial intent, then at the point you're thinking about what to do as far as your study is, you could already be thinking, I don't just want to do a project for the grade or a project for the qualification. I want to do something that I can earn a living out of in future or commercialize in some way. That already shapes what you'll do. The second thing I'll answer as far as that is there's no problem with not commercializing. Yeah, like I said, some people do knowledge. We've worked with several researchers from all universities across Kenya, I believe, in this program, and we've had people in all sorts of disciplines. And one of the things we had to come to a realization at some point is there are some researchers for whom commercialization is not, it's not what they're about. They're happy to make the product, they're happy to make the innovation, they're happy to come up with the research, and that is where their heart is, and that is fine. Perhaps then what they need to do is, what we need to do is introduce someone who has the, because we see the potential, is introduce somebody who has the entrepreneurial mindset to unlock the knowledge that this guy is creating. And so one of the initiatives we are currently running under the R2C program is a venture, so we're experimenting with a venture builder approach. The essence of which is we have taken 3 of the entrepreneurs or the researchers that we have come across, 3 of the best researchers we have come across that we think have promising products, and we are trying to match them with entrepreneurial co-founders who can hopefully come alongside them to help with the commercialization aspect. Because the sort of mind that you have for research is not necessarily the same as the sort of mind and mentality that you have as an entrepreneur. They're sort of, it's hard to find them in one person. If you find them in one person, it's usually quite amazing. But usually you'll find that a researcher is sort of wired for research, and there's someone who is wired for entrepreneurship. So one of the things we are testing is, can we find those collaborations to make, in order to commercialize, yeah? Then the second question is regarding partnership. So as Victoria Ventures, I'd say not directly. So for us, we work as a service provider and as a program manager. The nature of our business is not to go into commercialization ourselves. So we wouldn't necessarily look for a direct partnership with a researcher to commercialize, because that's not the business which we are operating. However, what we normally do is, like I said, for instance, matchmake with potential co-founders and the like. So not directly, but perhaps indirectly. Yes?
What is easier, to innovate or to counterfeit?
I'll answer that question with a quote from Steve Jobs. What did Steve Jobs say?
Just a minute,
yes.
Because I'm finding there are some countries that specialize in counterfeit. They don't bother to research. Even here, even us when we are studying,
yes,
there are those who master in plagiarism.
Yeah.
So how do you protect your end product from counterfeits?
Okay, I've remembered the Steve Jobs quote. Steve Jobs said this, he said, and it's not him, he was quoting Pablo Picasso, I think. Pablo Picasso, the artist. So Picasso said, you might miss it, so listen carefully. He said, good artists copy, great artists steal. I don't know whether that makes sense to anyone. Good artists copy, great artists steal. Now that is Pablo Picasso, you can Google it, I don't know what he meant. But I think what he meant was, if you think about pure knowledge, and you'd say, even Steve Jobs himself, much of what he created, he did not create, he took from somewhere else. But what he meant by copying is, it's one thing if I make something and you take it and you duplicate it. It's another thing if you come see what I've made and then you go with it and you turn it into something else altogether. Yeah? But that's besides the point. Intellectual property, we also do a whole session on intellectual property and knowledge protection, which is, I think, especially at the level of primary research, is critical. Partly because you have the systems around it with regards to IP protection through KIPI and the rest. However, in practice, I think we've all heard the stories of China and so on. I think some people say fake it till you make it. So it is definitely easier to duplicate or to copy. The question is, how far does copying take you? Okay? And I'm speaking about the bush because it's a wide topic. I think if you look, for instance, at China's economic model, because they're often called copyists. If you look at China's economic model, for a long time they were copying. But while they were copying, they were building capacity for creation. So today you find creation, intellectual property creation out of China that is on par with anyone else. Much as for a long time they used copying as a means of creating their capacities for high-tech product development and so on, for example. There's a moral side of that question, which I can't answer, but there's a moral side to the question. It's not just about, I copied, I made, but there's also an ethical aspect of it, which is a discussion altogether. Yeah.
Can I just chip in? If you develop a product, you patent it completely for several years. If it is a medication, there is a duration allowed, specific. Then after that, that patent goes off. Everybody can pick and replicate and use it as yours. Number two, the easiest one, which you say sometimes, I think the Chinese and even Japanese went to places, took cameras of what they were doing. They came back and paste copied and did the work. As long as you do it in your country, nobody would really bother you if you exactly know what you're doing and there is a market for that particular material. The worst part you can do is completely copy-paste as they are doing it. Come back home, develop or train people, create more people, and get that compound produced within your place. I think there is one thing I wanted to mention. There is money for research, even for promotion. Kenya. If you today discovered an innovation, you made an innovation, and actually it is something that can go selling, you will not have a problem whatsoever. You would go through kizuri, chachiuza, kibaya lazima ukaanze kukimbia nacho. So never really. There are so many things we can do. One thing I didn't say earlier, all of you are doing some of this work under a supervisor. You didn't come up and just pick a problem. That supervisor must have led you in what you're doing, all of you, different programs you're doing. So it is between you and that supervisor to think and do that bit of research. But in my seeing this document here, some of this really can come through into fruition. Some areas can be done and you get a product out. That product now should sell. I mentioned yogurt in the morning, and we said collaboration between you and the industry, the university and the industry. So when you start developing it, if you developed it alongside the industry people knowing somebody, they do two things. They put you, take you to do their work. Or they develop with you and you agree, they be the salespersons. I know a lot of Japanese, them guys who left from here, Kenya, went to Japan, made a lot of good work. They were retained in Japan and stayed there, working in their factories. So deal with your supervisor, find out, is this thing going to be sellable? Not really, it's just a publication, yes. And that it stops at that end. Yeah. And there is money. I hope Kenya comes tomorrow. Is he coming, by the way? Is Dr. Masa coming? When?
Should be tomorrow or Friday.
You don't know.
We are confirming.
He's coming. Yeah, let him come. You ask him. The moment you develop a sellable product, survey. Why do people do survey? So many hotels are coming here in this town. Hotels, 10,000, 6,000, 5,000, A, B, and B. Why? Demand. You can't go wrong in this town, Narok. If they made that road, this place would be better than Naivasha. That road is a bottleneck. And if somebody did a research and said what they can do on that road and make a difference, you can be a billionaire.
Thank you.
Thank you. A round of applause to the presenter. He deserves a better clap, and I want to train you. We want to give him a buzz. So I want each one of us to buzz as we transit to lunch hour. And I want us to do like this, like you zoom around, buzz around like a mosquito. When I say mosquito, you zoom around, right? Okay, 1, 2, 3, we go, mosquito. Zzz, everyone, hey, someone already. Let's begin, mosquito. Zzz. Okay, let us be upstanding. Let us be upstanding for a small. Sorry. Let us be upstanding for a small. Are you ready? Please stand up. Okay.
I see my seniors, colleagues, guests, and really great to be here. Because of our friendship with Maasai Mara University, I literally traveled from Accra, Ghana yesterday evening just to make sure that I can stop by here today and then go to handle other things. I'll try to use probably 20 to 25 minutes and then also give a bit of room for discussion so then we can transition to other things. I'm CEO Kenya National Innovation Agency, not NRF, as was suggested. And then secondly, I was given a topic on the role of innovation in advancing research and development. In a way, I felt that's not anything new. I mean, if we're in a university context, there's very little I can see that can be enriching on that topic. And so I requested to make a change at the topic based on what I thought are some of the things that students and research practitioners need to relate with. And so I have a short presentation to talk about technology readiness levels, partly because I have interacted with many university faculty and students and research students, and I sense that there's a degree of frustration about why their innovative ideas are not being taken up by industry and the market. And I thought I need to help manage expectations as per what you're doing, the stage you are, and where you could possibly go. So let's take an example. I can take a seed, just a seed, and go outside and make a hole and plant it. And then after 2 days, 3 days, whatever number of days, it starts to germinate and I see a seedling. And then I decide I want to harvest 1 week from now. And in order to harvest 1 week from now, I make sure there is light supplied 24/7. I make sure there is water supplied all the time. Will I harvest 1 week from now? Will I harvest 1 week from now? No. Why? Because a natural process has to follow certain stages. And that's part of what I'm going to try and illustrate now. So it is now 18 minutes past 3, and I hope to be done. Is there a way of controlling my presentation, or I will say next? Okay. So my title is Technology Readiness Levels. And that's what I'll try to emphasize a little bit. So if someone out there is willing to tell me what is technology to you, what do you process technology to be? Anybody? Anybody to tell me what is technology to you? Okay, I'll use this.
To me, simply put, technology is what makes my work easier.
Say that again?
What makes my work easier?
Okay, anybody else? Thank you very much. No right answer, no wrong answer. Just tell us what you think technology is to you.
Where?
Okay, thank you. Now, I think that technology is an advancement on something that improves the normal and makes you to do something better.
Okay. One more.
Yeah, to me, technology is the application of science and to solve practical problems.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. We're getting there. That's all right. I picked a definition from a dictionary. Next slide, please. And this is, I wish I control slides. When I control, I tend to be in charge of my speed. So I picked this from 3 dictionaries and got a consistent definition as the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes, especially in industry. So we are researchers. We're going to exercise research. We're going to do research and so on and so forth. And then when we apply that research, the outcomes of that research into practical use, that means we are solving an issue that people relate with, a pain point that they experience, or that we can apply and we can make their life a little easier or lighter. And it doesn't have to be human beings. It can be even animals or crops or whatever. And maybe we make them germinate faster or we delay their rotting and so on and so forth. The application is then technology. So technology is not ICT. There is always a bias to look at it in terms of computer or technical devices like this. So it's not ICT, but because technology therefore can be anywhere. The very fact that you're sitting on a chair, we can build an argument around technology in that case. So then the next question I have, if you are going to apply your technology in solving a certain issue, in a practical issue, how mature is that technology? I'm laying a little bit of a foundation, then I will speak a little faster towards the end. How ready is the technology for it to be used? How do I know if it is ready? Anybody can tell me. How do you know that the technology is ready for use? And why do you want to know the level of its maturity? Why do you want to know the extent to which it is ready? Okay? 2 questions. How do you know it's ready? Or what level of maturity is it? And why do you want to know? Those are the foundations of my short presentation this afternoon. There comes technology readiness levels. And what I have come to a simple conclusion after having been to a number of universities, I find a lot of, and research institutions, we've got a lot of technologies that have been developed that can be applied, but their maturity level is in question. And because people don't know how to assess effectively the maturity levels of those technologies, then they carry the expectations that those technologies should be in use, but for some reason nobody is using them. So here is my point. Let's go back to the history of technology readiness level. So NASA in the US, somewhere in the 1970s, realized that as they developed parts and pieces to put in the spacecrafts and the planes, they needed to be sure that these devices were ready for use, and that you could not put something in a plane and it goes way up in the air and then it experiences tension, maybe because of temperature, and then it breaks apart and then makes everyone at risk. So the question was that given the sensitivity of the industry in which they were, or they still are, how do you make sure that by the time you put a device at the door of a plane, it will be safe? It will be safe for use irrespective of the temperature, the speed, the shaking, and so on and so forth. So then they came up with the technology readiness levels as a way to evaluate the readiness and manage risk. So that's the second reason. Is that I want to know whether it is ready for use. The second reason why I needed the technology readiness levels is that I will manage risks. And technology readiness levels became a mechanism of structured, multi-level scale to track the development of technologies from initial concept to operational readiness. That journey, by the time I have this idea that I'm researching on until I can apply it, it is now a clear, measurable system to assess the progress of critical technologies, essentials for meeting mission objective. That's why they created the technology readiness levels. And then over time, technology readiness levels have been adopted. And when I was doing my PhD, I remember there were conversations about, research methods and coming out, how you analyze data and so on and so forth. I've gradually become persuaded, Professor, that technology readiness levels must be taught as part of our research methods, especially when we think commercialization. Therefore, you understand the stage in which you are and are able to intervene appropriately. So I have many young people who've come to me with amazing ideas. They say, you know, I've worked on this thing for the last 2 years, and I gave it to some partner. I went and talked to this company, and they agreed to take it, and they gave me some money. And then I signed a piece of paper, and somewhere along the way, I have a feeling that I got a raw deal. That means they took too much value out of me. The problem was not the instrument that the institution gave. It is not the financial instrument. It's not the product. It's just that the maturity of the technology was not at the point where it was commensurate to the funding that you were looking for. The funding is not the problem. It's that, are you sure that there is a very good match? And that's the third reason why we have technology readiness levels. Is so that then you know which kind of funding do you need based on the maturity of the technology. And let me explain then the stages of the technology readiness levels. And you will see why you need different kinds of financial instruments at different levels. So if I am National Research Fund, I'm very interested in funding things at the technology readiness level 1 to 3. When I am working at the Kenya National Innovation Agency, I am interested in creating financial instruments that will operate between level 3 to somewhere around level 5, 6. And when I go to private sector, they are more interested in technologies that have reached level 7, 8, and 9. Because the purpose of those financial instruments are different. When you're in level 1, 2, 3, 4, you're doing what you're calling de-risking. So you're trying to prepare these technologies so that then industry can feel that the risk is not high. Government is the best institution to provide de-risking funding because your return on investment is not profit per se, but as government, you're trying to develop new ideas and new technologies and trying to empower people to move forward. So you're likely to fund things at these levels. And then as they advance, private sector picks up. So let's talk about the various levels. Level 1 is basic observations. So you're doing your basic research and you're coming up with basic ideas. 2, you start conceptualizing the technology that you're creating. 3, you move into proof of concept. Does it really make sense? Does it really work? 4, I start moving to partial scale, prototyping, modeling. 5, I start moving up all the way to 9 when I have full commercial product and can be financed by a financial institution. And if you notice, I'm using this diagram to try and demonstrate that there's something that continues to grow as you move up. Let's talk a little bit more about level 1. So I am a student and I am working on some technology. In level 1, it is the lowest level of the technology readiness. Scientific research begins, it starts to translate into some applied research and development. So you start moving into an applied context. And an example could include a paper. You're researching on something and you're publishing something. In level 2, invention begins. And this, you start seeing something tangible. So the basic principles have been observed. In other words, you have variables, you have indicators, you can measure. And then you start moving slowly towards the practical applications. And remember, we say technology has to have that practical element. So applications are a little speculative, and there may be no proof. So I may have something, but I have no proof that it can be useful in society. Level 3, technology readiness, active research and development is initiated. And this includes analytical studies and laboratory studies to physically validate the analytical predictions of separate elements within what you're creating. This, to a large extent, is what I find demonstrated in events. So we showcase that I've got this thing that can move. It uses energy, uses solar, uses something, starts to move. But whether it will be useful and someone will be willing to pay for it, to scale it, or consume it, is neither here nor there. Many a times we are emotionally connected to our idea and said, I've worked on this thing for 1 year. It's really amazing, but it's amazing to you, but not to a customer. Level 4 of the technology readiness, the basic technological components are integrated to establish that they can work together. So maybe now you have certain parts that you are able to bring together and that this thing is starting to work together. So there is very low fidelity compared to the eventual system. At the end of the day, this becomes a model that has several parts together and it's starting to function. So in other words, you can visualize what it can become. But that's not yet the final product. Level 5, now we start moving towards increased fidelity. It starts to become more reliable. You can see the improvement. The basic technological components are now integrated and they are operating in a reasonable way that you can put them in a simulated environment and see some kind of outcome. Level 5. We are not yet in level 9. So the question comes, what funding do I need at this level? I have this amazing idea and I'm wondering why the industry is not picking it up. But it's still not at the point where industry can pick up. I mentioned technology readiness level 6, 7, 8, you start having a lot of private sector funding. Level 6, now you have a model or a prototype system, which is well beyond TRL 5. It is now tested in a relevant environment. So we start seeing that it can actually work. Level 7, prototype is near or more in its operational stage, represents a major step up from TRL 6, and it requires demonstration of an actual system prototype in an operational environment, such as an aircraft, a vehicle, or a space. Now remember, we are in NASA, so this is how they assessed. So they have now a technology that they can actually put in the plane. And at that point, they feel this thing is really good to use and it's not harmful. Then in technology readiness 8, they say the technology has proven to work in a final form and under the expected conditions. So whether it is heat, speed, temperatures, change of environment, they've tested the materials, they've mixed up things. Now this can work in a real environment. And in almost all cases, this TRL represents the end of the true system development. So that means the technology has been developed. And in level 9, the technology then gets applied in a final form under the real mission and the conditions in which real life operates. So it is ready for consumption. There is all the empirical evidence that it will work. Okay, so technology readiness levels. How will then that apply to my ideas? Now, people have attempted to use this technology readiness levels framework in different contexts, and I will try to show how it's been applied in startups, it's been applied in fundraising, and so on and so forth. So one group of people have tried to cluster these technology readiness levels into 3. TRL 1, 2, and 3 is about research. And this is the area that the National Research Fund is very interested in, is to try and create new possibilities. Then TRL 4, 5, 6 is about now developing the technologies, and TRL 7, 8, 9 is about the deployment of this technology in real context. The temptations to move up quickly, the maturity levels, is always very high. But the message here is just to hold yourself to make sure that you are progressing appropriately. I used the example of planting a seed outside and trying to harvest 2 weeks later. It means you're trying to move from TRL 1 to 9 in rocket time. It's just not practical. The realities that you have to deal with are many along the way, and you do need to be patient. Another group of people have tried to look at technology readiness levels in this format and say, okay, level 1 is basic technology research, then proving the feasibility, all the way to launching. Another group has tried to organize this into 3 levels, and I am now trying to connect academia and industry. The technology readiness level 1, 2, and 3 is largely academic issues. 4, 5, and 6 is now you're beginning to collaborate a lot with industry and partners to help you in the technology development. And then 7, 8, 9 is more industry. This is where scaling happens. This is where funding from industry starts to show up, and so on and so forth. The second layer shows that what's happening in technology readiness level 1, 2, 3 is knowledge development. So you're putting together this thing to solve some societal issue. Then technological development. Now you're sure the knowledge makes sense, develop the technology, and develop the business. And many a times when we showcase our solutions, you find that somewhere we are probably TRL 4, TRL 5, and there's a question why my solution is not in industry. Here we are dealing with business development. And in part of business development, I'll talk about the fundraising, the business modeling, the value proposition design, and so on and so forth. And the skill sets that we need at this point in time are rather different. This is where the business school starts to come in, and I get out of my research lab and start to operate like a technology lead in my company. And I have to get complementary skills of people who can help me shape the business. It turns out that from TRL 1 to TRL 9, the value of death is typically TRL 4, 5, 6. At the point of technology development, there is an emotional connection that I am going to succeed with my solution. I am going to succeed with my solution. The technology makes a lot of sense to me. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the business is going to take shape. If you don't get the right support at that level, from academia to this value of death and then move to industry, the risk that the idea then will die and never find its life is very high in technology readiness level 4, 5, and 6. And that explains why many ideas developed, but then they don't transition. The support that they will receive are those levels. And the desire to jump from research space, academia space, into industry without aligning very well the technologies we've developed with what the industry expects. Let me talk a little bit about funding. This diagram puts together TRL 1 to TRL 9 and shows that along the way we're going to need different kind of financing instruments. Now, before we even begin the TRL 1, we do a lot of capacity building. People go to school. They study biology, they study chemistry, they study engineering. Some form of funding happens at that level. And then in between here, we've got different sets of funding when we are doing knowledge development, when we're doing technology development, and finally when we're doing the business development. We do need different kinds of funding instruments. The question is, if you mix the instruments and use a funding instrument for level 9 that should have been used for level 1 and vice versa, you're inviting failure. The problem is not the funding instrument. The problem is the fit with the technology readiness level. So if I am using a funding instrument in level 8 to do knowledge development, then I am mismatching the expectations. Of course, technology readiness levels have their own limitations, and I'll give a few of them. One, in its traditional form of level 1 to 9, there is an element of subjectivity because it works on a certain kind of assumption that we are in the space environment. So when NASA created, the environment was a little different, and that environment may not be the environment in which we are. Second, reality is not always linear. There are many things which are non-linear, and they may not be very predictable. So that's a limitation of the traditional technology readiness levels. The third assumption is that we are focused on technology. But you know, there's some ideas that can evolve that are not driven by technology per se. And finally, there's an oversimplification of complexity. Trying to move an idea from a lab all the way to scale is a very sophisticated issue. It has several dimensions in there. And when we say that there will be technology readiness level 1 to 9, it sounds like really simplified. And so this is what different people have done. The diagram might be a little difficult to process, but I'll try to explain it. From technology readiness level 1 to 9, different industries operate a bit differently. So if I am in science and engineering, I will follow the NASA route. I'll go from basic ideas to concept development, all the way to technology development, and then I will go to maturity level 9. But in some other areas like software, for those who are in software engineering or computer science, chances are that you don't need to go to the lab to do some research. So problem TRL 1 and 2 probably are not necessary. So we jump straight to TRL 3, where actually we're doing some kind of experimentation of our concept. And then we will end up all the way here because the business model must be developed. We must move from the technology development stage of 4, 5, and 6 into the business itself, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then medical research, that's the lowest. So if you superimpose how we develop medical devices, we start with research, basic research, that is TRL 1 and 2. And then we move to preclinical research, TRL 3, 4. Then we go to late preclinical research, level 5. Then phase 1 trials, phase 2 trials, phase 3 trials, and phase 4 trials. By then, we are ready to go into industry. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that TRL can be customized for different sectors. And some elements might be skipped, but it is important to look at the 3 blocks carefully. There is the knowledge creation, there is the technology development, and then there is industry. And Chair NRF, one of the dreams I have had is when the STI sector funding instruments are organized along the technology readiness levels. Because if we have 1, 2, and 3, and here we are supporting basic and applied research with the intentions of coming up with new ideas. And then we look at technology readiness 4, 5, and 6 for purposes of trying to create tangible products. And then we have a mechanism for moving that to industry. And that means we work closely with the private sector who pick up some of the technologies that we developed for purposes of scale and business. Now, last but not least, I'll speak to the issues of investment readiness. Because of the challenge I have faced working with startups in terms of how ready they are to adopt some of the financial instruments that exist. If we look at the technology readiness levels from 1 to 9, for those who know issues of business modeling, customer acquisition costs, it's somewhere on TRL 8, 9. The engagements we have there, we are thinking about what is the average selling price, what would likely to be the monthly cash burn rate. The language changes into business language. If we are somewhere in the middle here, we think about value proposition, we think about fit between the solution we are creating and the market. This problem that I'm dealing with and the solution, I deal with it at this level. So I have to prepare myself to transition in terms of the sophistication of the business that I'm building based on technology readiness. There's a group of people who've really tried to map technology readiness levels and investment readiness levels. It is one thing to want to access funding, but it is another thing to be ready to actually consume the funding for value creation. Lastly, this diagram was an attempt to link technology readiness levels on one end from level 1 to level 9 of a startup, talking about value, vision, thinking about a profitable model, product market fit, scaling up, and beginning to think about how to exit. So that's a typical startup. So that's that superimposition of technology readiness levels and the maturity level of a startup. And what is it that they need at a certain point in time. Now, if I look at that startup from the setting of a vision and an idea and all the way to envisioning an exit, on this other side is the funding instruments that I need for each of the technology readiness levels at that maturity of a startup. So over here, at the very initial stages, I need de-risking funding, which is easy to access and does not require return on investment in traditional sense. So family and friends are very helpful here. They can give you money to develop the technologies. Institutions like National Research Fund, can you give you a grant to do work like this? So friends, family, personal credit. By the time I reach TRL 3, I start talking about angel investors. I move to angel investors and family. TRL 4, I start going to venture capitalists. In TRL 5, and here I'm dealing with seed, Series 1, Series A, Series B, Series C, Series D, and here I'm only dealing with venture capitalists, all the way to acquiring of an IPO. Therefore, it means that the instrument, there has to be different kind of instruments at different, because people who give you funding at VC level, they also bring certain level of expertise to you on how to scale the business, on how to refine the business model, on how to acquire customers, and so on and so forth. They don't just bring funding. So then the challenge to you as a student, as a researcher, is to internalize technology readiness levels and then think through the interventions that are needed at a certain time, so that then you use the most appropriate instruments as you move up the value chain. And with that, thank you very much.
Another round of applause to CEO Kenya. We are now opening the session to any questions that you'd like to ask the CEO, please. First person to go up. Thank you. First question over here.
Thank you, Doc. My name is Mary from Park University. First, thank you for a quite informative presentation. And when you were presenting in terms of the link between industry, academia, I think that's one of the biggest links that we're having as a country. As it is in terms of even being mentored and even being taught, you know, the way you said the incorporation of TRL. So mine is not much of a question, but just to comment and just give my thoughts that that link between academia, industry, that in between, that then contributes to the value of death, because at times we think our concept is ready and then you get to the market and you are frustrated. So thank you. Yes. So it wasn't a question. Thank you.
At least I can go home knowing one student got what I meant.
Great. Who has a question now?
Thank you, Doc, for a very good presentation. First, I would like to request that you can share the presentation itself with us. Then number two, this technology readiness levels is challenging to us because a PhD takes 3 years. And like now, I have done preliminary tests of my research. So yesterday, I went to collect some materials from West Banana. When I shared with the people who are supposed to share with me what I'm going to do with the West, they were interested with the product themselves. So they started telling me, Bwana, do quickly, by next month, bring those things here, we sell for you. Now, where am I now? Do I proceed with the PhD, the 3 years, or do I share the ideas? Now, I don't know, I'm confused. Thank you.
So I can respond to this? Or,
Okay, we can pick another question.
I see another hand there.
Over here.
Dr. Tony, thank you very much. I think today this is the third time of me listening for your presentation. You always eat it up to the wall. There's a time we were with you and nobody asked you a question because of how you do the presentation. Kindly, I have no question for you, but I'm kindly requesting you to highlight us on what the Kenya can do for us as the postgraduate student towards our ongoing and coming research. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Ray. It has always been a pleasure meeting you, especially in the same hall. Yeah, my name is Dr. Naikuni from Maasai Mara University School of Business.
I actually remember you very well.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to talk about business.
I have two questions for you, probably, to enable us to understand this more. One is on what indicators can be used to assess country or organizational readiness for technology adoption. For example, Maasai Mara University, in all aspects, talk about business, as you're saying. So what are some of the indicators can be used to assess and see that an institution is ready for technology advancement? We have AI coming in a subset of technology, and so many other tools coming in and so on. So what are some of the indicators that can tell us, as much as we've taken along with Maasai Mara with all the trainings, is the university ready now? What are these indicators? Number two, what is your take as Dr. Tony on regulatory frameworks in the country and in East Africa and beyond in getting technology readiness and deployment. As we speak now, there is a blush that while Kenyans are advanced in technology and our brothers in Tanzania, you know what's going on in the social media. So what are some of the regulatory frameworks that you may think that will guide technology readiness in the region?
So that means you have taken me to my title, the one that I was supposed to present. But let me start with you, and then I try to maybe come back again. I think you can achieve both. But you have a choice to make. I mean, like you can decide, I don't want to do both. I just want to focus on one, and you can pick. You can actually quit the PhD. There's nothing abnormal about that. People have done that. But then you can quit, and then 1 year later you come back and then said, I think I made a mistake. You start again, and life happens. Big deal. But I think it's possible to achieve both. The only thing is that you must have the intelligence to understand that to also develop the business is a certain set of skills, and you have to pull together those skills, maybe the team that you need because you can't do it alone in order to succeed. But I'm glad that there's a customer, a user, who is actually telling you that they can purchase, they can pay for the services or the solution that you're going to create. It's a good state to be. And that's why technology readiness, growing up the value chain of the technology readiness doesn't have to happen in 10 years. It doesn't have to take 2 years. It can actually take 5 months. If you're using AI, for example, you can actually move up the value chain very, very quickly. So in your case, it is possible that the business model, value proposition is actually being designed. Then you've got to think through your business model, how you're going to fund it, and what is your supply chain like, how do you engage your customers, and so on and so forth. There are many questions you would have to answer that if you need to run with both of them, then you have to be prepared to really work hard. Because on TRL 5, 6, 7, 8, you're talking the business, all right? And you're dealing with the industry, and you're going to need some manufacturing equipment, and so on and so forth, while at the same time, you're doing your academic work. So it's challenging to do both of them, and I feel your pain because if you only focus on the PhD, you feel like you will lose an opportunity, and someone else might run away with it. So you got a problem, I don't have an answer, I just wish you well. All right, now, I left Accra specifically because I wanted to come and engage. And this is the first time I'm engaging more of students and researchers, early career researchers. And I thought that it is so useful to talk about this. I didn't see the need of talking about innovation and economic development. I'm like, no, that one you can go read. But I felt, in every time I have been to a few universities and I've moved around a lot, I felt the impatience. And felt the anxiety and the expectations, because I speak commercialization all the time, then they're like, okay, people feel like they want to commercialize real quick. And then I'm like, hold your horses. You do need to go through certain stages. There is a reason why at age 6 you're likely to be in grade 1. And there's a reason why at age X you're supposed to be an undergraduate student. If I find you as an undergraduate student and you're carrying a diaper, I think there's something wrong. That means you didn't outgrow a certain stage. And once you've outgrown, please move on. But then don't behave like an undergraduate student when you're in elementary school. That means also there's something wrong. Let's manage the stages. Indicators of technology readiness and adoption. We've worked together with Vice Chancellor here and a number of universities around entrepreneurial institutions and the maturity levels, and we've developed a maturity framework. And in this maturity framework, we've got a certain set of constructs and variables and indicators. And I'll use that one as an example before I kind of nail down into your question. Now, on those constructs that we've developed, one of them is on leadership. You see, I don't doubt that the leadership preparedness is going to be an indicator for technology adoption. And leadership here is not just the Vice Chancellor. It's an entire team that is in management. I don't know to what extent we've discussed in the Senate about the implication of AI in teaching and learning. And who is going to bring that agenda, if not you and me, who sit in the Senate? That to me is an indicator that we are ready The fact that we can embrace and have that discussion, we are ready because the technology and innovation is running way fast. Things like infrastructure, things like teaching and learning, entrepreneur teaching and learning. I've had an opportunity to start a startup school specifically for people who teach entrepreneurship. Why? Because I felt that within our university ecosystem, to a large extent, we may be teaching entrepreneurship for purposes of a grade. To a large extent. I didn't say to an entire, to a large extent. Because here is a simple question. How many students have gone through you who teach entrepreneurship? And how many ventures do you have to show for that number? What is the ratio? If the ventures are very few, then it means we were probably teaching for the grade. But if the outcome was ventures, then the approach actually begins to change. So that's an indicator for me. Is the manner in which teaching and learning for entrepreneurship is executed to get certain kind of outputs. And so I started a startup school to teach people who teach entrepreneurship and expose to them what the 21st century student who is trying to become a founder, what they need. If I bring to you founders who run startups to come and engage with you, those of us who teach entrepreneurship, you will be surprised whether what you are giving is what they needed. Because they will tell you what works and what doesn't work. That could be another indicator. Another indicator could be culture. Another indicator will be incentives. In the terms of culture, how incentivized are you to try something new? You know, it is very possible that you try something new and everybody looks at you weirdly. I did an experiment when I was teaching. I experimented flipped classroom. So in this case, I pre-recorded all my content. I created an online learning system. And I told all my students, I will not come to class to talk about concepts. You watch these videos, we come and discuss. So in the first session, I took all their email addresses and I signed them up on the portal. And I said, go watch the first 3 sets of videos. In the next class, we'll just have a discussion on that. It was a very weird experience to students. But you see, I was willing to try it. And at the end of the semester, I was rated as the most innovative faculty member. And they did very well. In fact, closer to the exam, you would actually find all of them watching my content.
The breakout session rooms will be held at Olekare Complex Annex. The ushers will show you the way towards like this. Behind the Senate boardroom, you see the Olekare Complex. As you enter, then you go through it, you will see the Olekare Complex Annex. That's where the breakout sessions. In the ground floor, we shall have the session room 1. Session room 2 will be first floor. Session room 3 will be second floor, and the final session room will be 4th floor. So I would like now to request all conference participants to head out to Olekare Complex for the breakout sessions. Thank you. You can, okay. So please make sure that you follow Professor Simiyu. Professor Simiyu is here. Omuse, Marjan, please come so that we can show the visitors where Olekare Complex is for the breakout sessions. So I will repeat again, the first breakout sessions, room 1 will be ground floor, So see where your presentation is situated and go to the right room. The second room is first floor, second floor, and fourth floor in that order as per the program.
After that, they go for tea break.
After the breakout session, we'll come back for a tea break, then reconvene in the plenary for the closure of today. So please, you are encouraged to head out. In the interest of time, let us go to our breakout rooms. In the interest of time, you are encouraged to go to your breakout room for your presentations. Professor Simiyu is here. Marjan, please. Follow Professor Simiyu. Thank you.